Hey there, I'm Matt Tommy, and over the last 10 years, I've helped thousands of Christian artists all over the world start thriving spiritually, artistically, and in the marketplace, while at the same time building my own super successful art business. If you're ready to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live in His kingdom, then you're in the right place, my friend. Now with over 500,000 downloads, you're listening to the Thriving Christian Artist Podcast. Well, hey there, my friend. So glad that you're here with me on the podcast today. Listen, how do you go from being a Lyft driver to actually being a thriving artist in the kingdom of God? Well, that's the story of my guest today, an incredible watercolor artist named Gabriel Stockton, who's a member of my Creative to Thrive mentoring program and who loves Jesus like nobody's business. I mean, this guy is an incredible guy, incredible artist, and has got a great story of how the Lord just transformed his life and is in the process of transforming his art and his business as he's been a part of the mentoring program. I can't wait to tell you his story today. So you're going to love it. You're going to be able to find out where to connect with him down in the show notes. We also just sent a video crew out to his house and to his studio and followed him out into where he paints actually on the streets there in San Diego, doing some incredible work in Balboa Park and other places that are there with historic homes. And I mean, just beautiful work. So you can find out all about that and click those links down in the show notes to find out more about Gabriel. All right. Well, before I get into that, I want to make sure to give a shout out to one of my podcast listeners over on Apple Podcasts. This one is from Shasta Leone, which I'm like, what a name is that? And the title of the review is very encouraging, 5 stars. Says, hey, so the Thriving Christian Artist podcasts are excellent. The variety of arts and artists featured show lots of artistic journeys, how we are all unique and that God wants to pour His truth into our lives and help us really begin to thrive as we create with Him His way. So encouraging, uplifting, and challenging for me as an artist in God's kingdom. P.S. The Creative to Thrive mentoring group is pretty super amazing too. Thanks, Matt. Well, thank you, Shasta Leon, and really glad that you're a listener and glad you're in the mentoring program as well. That's super cool as well. Listen, speaking of the mentoring program, we open the doors twice a year to the Creative to Thrive Artist Mentoring Program. We do that through a special masterclass that I do called Artists Rise Up, which is a free 5-part masterclass plus art challenge that we do. The doors are open for that actually right now. It doesn't officially start until September the 22nd, but right now you can get in. You can start meeting artists from around the world who love Jesus, who are great artists in just about every creative medium that's out there. Does that mean musicians, Matt? Yes. Does that mean writers, Matt? Yes. What about visual artists? Yes. How about painters? Yes. Jewelry and sculpture? Yes. What about wood? Awesome. Fiber artists? Yes. Just quit asking. Just say yes. Okay. You're invited to be a part of the Artist Rise Up Masterclass. There's going to be some great teaching, some great live Q&A with me, great stories of artists who are thriving, great opportunities for you to meet and collaborate and connect with artists from around the world. And we would love for you to be a part of it. All right. All you got to do is click the link right down here in the show notes. You can grab your place inside there. You can get access to the free resources that we're giving you when you come in, get a link to the Facebook group, and get prepared for the masterclass that's going to start on the 22nd. All right. Hope to see you there. And until then, I hope you enjoy this great interview with my friend Gabriel. Well, hey there, my friend. I'm so glad that you're with me on the podcast today. I've got a great friend of mine, Gabriel Stockton, who is an awesome artist from the San Diego area. Gabriel, man, thanks so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Well, thank you for having me on today, Matt. This is a great opportunity to just share testimony.
Absolutely, man. I have so enjoyed your energy and your heart and what God's doing in and through your life and your artwork and that sort of thing as you've been in the mentoring program now for a while. And I was so excited to be able to share your story with our podcast listeners, just as like you said, incredible testimony of who God is and what He's doing in the lives of artists. So just for those folks who may not know you and that sort of thing, why don't you just give us the thumbnail sketch of who you are, what you do creatively, and that sort of thing.
I'm a California kid. I grew up in California. My mother was an artist, so jars of paint were just at arm's reach. She had a ceramic shop, but I loved painting. And just when you're living in California and you have the golden hills and you have the beautiful ocean, there's just God's beauty all around you to paint. And just currently right now, I'm just doing plein air painting at Balboa Park and other areas of San Diego, painting historic buildings and then whatever God leads me to paint.
That's awesome. So did you have a context for, I mean, I guess you did with your mom, but was being a full-time artist kind of something that was always on your heart, or did you come to that later in your journey, or how did that evolve for you?
Art was always kind of like wishy-washy in my life. I get these little spurts of ideas and some of these times in my little areas of my life, but nothing like really stuck in my BC days, my before Christ days. And it wasn't until I learned who God created me to be in my identity and to step into that fullness and believe in it as an artist. And then we transformed into a full-time artist.
Wow. So what were you doing before that? Just working different jobs, or?
I was all over the place. There's so many experiences I've had in the last 40-some years of my life. And, I've done tattooing, I've done barbering, I've done the whole gamut. And, it's nice to just be operating in the kingdom.
Yeah.
There's even times of doing background scenes in West Hollywood for little small plays, where I do paintings on canvases on both sides of the canvases. There was times where I thought I wanted to illustrate the Bible and that didn't stick. And there's all these different things, but it was when I actually gave God my yes, and I wanted to have that kind of, I wanted to see a vision of me being a father, a husband, and I definitely love the idea of being a father to other artists.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think for all of us who, when that begins to click, there's this kind of beautiful moment of convergence that starts to happen where, like you're saying, all those parts of you that may have seemed kind of disparate and separated over our life, all of a sudden begin to come together. You can really see this beautiful design that God's had for you the whole time. And I mean, I know for me, that's been really exciting to live in that. And I see that same thing in you as well. So that's super awesome.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah. So how did you tell everybody the story of how you found out about the mentoring program and all that sort of thing? Because I always love how people kind of find out what we're doing and that sort of thing. You found out about it through when I was on Sean Bowles' podcast or something like that, didn't you?
Yes. It was so funny. I was ready for a breakthrough, and right before breakthrough, there's all this stuff coming at you, and you're just like, I need breakthrough. And this word started popping up everywhere on grocery bags. The word was thriving. It was on a little handbag, like the kind you get for like an ice cooler, and it was on a t-shirt. And I think I saw it on a couple of signs, like walking into a business. I was like, thrive. The other word God gave me was studio. And I go, oh boy, studio. Okay. And so then I started seeing these little opportunities of podcasts, and then your podcast came along after watching Sean Bowles, and I was like, wow. And then I saw something that was in the makes for Bethel, and I was like, I gotta check this guy out. So there I was on this podcast, listening and just being filled with just joy and excitement for the future.
Isn't that crazy? It's amazing how God brings all those little things. If we'll pay attention, we can start to connect the dots, right? So I love that. Sure. So tell everybody about your business. What does it look like right now as an artist? You're doing plein air painting and they're in San Diego, but for some people, they're doing their art kind of as a part-time hobby or that sort of thing. For you though, this is what you do. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, and how is being in the mentoring program kind of changed or helped to transform what you're doing there in your business, in your life?
Well, I'm very fortunate to live in a beautiful place that the weather is so nice about 90% of the time of the year. So getting outside painting, I could be at the beach one moment, I could be over at Balboa Park, I could be, in front of a gorgeous old home. But I was kind of just like all over the place. I went somewhere by the seat of my pants. I really didn't have, a setup of like, okay, a schedule other than my Wednesday, where I would take a group of people, and that was the only thing that was like consistent. But I wasn't getting paid for it; it was just volunteering. And so, before the mentoring program, I was kind of just all over the place. But now I have I have goals. I have a year goal, and I've reverse engineered to see how we can make those goals as a family financially. And I had to walk away from my part-time job as a Lyft driver. And finally Lyft just let me go. And I said, okay, here we go. Jesus. And it was funny because just that day, a client had called me up and said, Gabriel, I want you to do another painting. And so it was just praying for new opportunities. So the mentoring program gave me new sight on how to pray. Instead of praying for money, I was praying for opportunities.
Yeah.
And then once I get those opportunities, I get to cultivate them and keep building those relationships. I never built a relationship. I never thought to even sell a second painting when I was selling one painting. And I've had those opportunities and I love it.
I love that. So many people, I talk about it as the bridge, kind of, going from where you are now to where you want to be. And I think so many times people try to overthink that of, all right, what are the exact steps going to be? And of course, we don't know that. God's got to lead us. But I love the fact that, Lyft fired you or they let you go, just because I see God in that. That same thing happened to me. Like when I was working at a church, I was a full-time worship pastor. And then all of a sudden my pastor came to me and he's like, man, God's doing so much with your books and all this. This is 10 years ago. He was like, what about if you go part-time? Well, in the natural, I was like, oh crap, that's half my money and, all the security and healthcare and all this sort of thing. And then a year later, it was like, I think the Lord's calling you to go out full-time in your art and that sort of thing. And at the same time, while that was exciting, something inside of me was like, I don't know how it's going to work out. But God's in the middle of orchestrating that transition and all those transitions for us all the time. And I mean, how have you managed that? Because I'm sure that it's not been all rosy and that sort of thing. I mean, I guess, it sounds like the Lord's led you the whole way and there's new confidence, but there's some freak out moments too, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yes. There's been plenty of freak out moments. When you start investing into what God is cultivating in your life and you don't have that nice little cushion in savings and you're relying on faith, you're like, oh, I trust you, Lord. I trust you, Lord. But when the Lord says, I want you to learn from this person and pay for this course to help you to grow in this area of your life. I had to like strengthen my muscles in marketing. I had to strengthen my muscles in how I was developing my art. And, it's also about too, like a freak out moment you're having as an artist. You're like, why am I creating art? What? And when people are looking at my art, what are they seeing?
Yeah.
And I came across this verse. It says, your eyes are like a lamp that provide light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your body is healthy. It is filled with light. But when it is unhealthy, your body is filled with darkness. So it made me thinking of something. I'm like, what will I paint today that'll fill others with the Spirit in viewing my work?
That's good.
And I was like, I want to be able to fill them with the radiance and possibly even they can be healed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I look up this word radiance and in Hebrew it says to beam with joy. And I see that at times when I show up with this painting that I've done for a commission, a custom painting just for someone, and they beam with joy. And I'm like, thank you, Lord.
I love it, because I mean, he wants to move right in and through our work and our lives and all of that. He doesn't just stop at the end of the paintbrush, right? I mean, he continues to move into everything that we're doing. So I love that. Talk about some of the practical things that are happening. I know I've heard a little bit of you sharing just about how your business is changing. You just mentioned about connecting with clients and that sort of thing. That's a big thing that we talk about in the mentoring program a lot. But how is that idea of connection with people and building relationship through sales, as opposed to just trying to find the next buyer and kind of, hunting as opposed to farming, if you will, to use that analogy? How has that changed what's happening in your business, and what are some of the cool things that God's doing in that?
Well, through this program, I've learned how to cultivate relationships. And when you go to sell that one painting, you hopefully have created something that the buyer likes. Specifically, a story is I created a piece of art that brought this woman joy during COVID while her house is still under construction. She has this new painting in her home, and then she's just started thinking of other things that brought her joy, and she started sharing these things. And over time, we're building this relationship. Before Christ, I didn't know how to keep building relationships and keep valuable friendships. I didn't know how to grab strategic partners, other people in other arts that we can get together. I don't have to always hang out with painters. I can hang out with sculptors. I can hang out with glass blowers, and cultivate those relationships, keep building them, keep checking in with each other. During COVID, I checked in with some of my friends just to see how they were doing. And I just send out a little email blast, and just some fun little videos to share. And they each one of them messaged me and said, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for taking that time. I never did that before Christ, before this program.
Wow. I love it, because I think the kingdom is all about relationships, not only with the Lord, but also with each other, and letting the Lord use that. And I think that is the basis of all great sales and marketing is, developing relationships where people know, like, and trust you. And I think that for people that are in the kingdom, we get to see both sides of that. We get to see not only the spiritual benefit of seeing people come to the Lord or seeing our impact in people's lives, but also this wonderful opportunity to grow our business, to allow God to use that process to prosper us and that sort of thing. So I just love that. Gabriel, we open the mentoring program, as you know, a couple of times a year, in January, in September. This is one of those times right now. So as folks are listening, there are lots and lots of folks that are not a part of this incredible community. There may be where you were previously. What would you say to somebody who's sitting out there, who's been trying to make this thing work themselves? Maybe they're working a part-time job that they're not really excited about, or a full-time job they're not really excited about. They want to transition into doing their art more part-time or full-time, don't know how to do that. What would you say to that person that's considering becoming a part of the mentoring program?
I would consider some of the areas that where you're weak in, that this mentoring program will strengthen you. And especially, if you're feeling like you don't have that support, you don't have that community, even on a daily basis, a weekly basis, this is a platform to join. This is a group to join. And I would put out that challenge. If you're just sick and tired of being fed up of just putting off your dream, God shows you dreams and God puts these ideas in your head. It's time to say yes to God.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you came in the program, I immediately, you kind of came on my radar because for those who don't know, we do this thing called live Q&A every week. So you can ask me any question you want, then I answer it every week. And so, people are always asking different questions. We do about an hour and a half, 2 hours every week. It's a lot of fun. But every week, as soon as you got in, there'd be a question and then I would answer it. And then the next week you were like, okay, praise report. I did that. This happened. Woo. Now tell me about this. And I was like, okay, it's on. Like this guy is going for it. But I love it because you are really pressed into the community part of what we do inside the mentoring program. And from my perspective, that really seems like you're really milking it for all it's worth and using that. I mean, that seems to be a real a point of, even though you're in California, we're in North Carolina time zones and that sort of thing, you're asking questions, you are really invested, and that's made a difference, it seems like.
Well, it also is, it's, when you're just getting free information all the time and you're just like, oh, they're giving away this free information, I'm taking notes and everything. But when you actually commit and you put $100 or whatever down, you commit and you go, I'm going to pay this each month. You darn well are going to spend time and get after it. And you got to have some grit.
Absolutely. I love grits as a Southerner, but we're talking about spiritual grit too, right? I mean, business grit, you got to get after it. Yeah. I think that's huge for people. And I just appreciate that about you and so many others in our program is that, I think that's one of the reasons why we do ask people to invest in themselves is because people that invest in, it's often been said, people who pay attention. And I think that's true. When you invest in yourself, you're in it to win it. You're in the journey. And that's the kind of people that we want in the program. Not that you got to be at a certain level, or whatever, but it just, it's like you said, it's a line in the sand. It says, I'm ready to go for it. And I want to invest not only in my journey, but also in the journey of other people that are walking along. So Gabriel, man, I'm so glad that you have invested in, and I'm so glad just honored to be a part of your journey and what the Lord's doing. Where can folks find out about your art and where they can connect with you just to see what you're doing online and that sort of thing?
My website is www.gabrielstocktonfineart.com. You can also find me on Instagram, my YouTube channel, just searching in Gabriel Stockton, as well as Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Gabriel, thanks so much again, man, for being on the podcast today. It was great.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.